pre-wired antenna cable from Wilson uses these tiny little FME connectors. Now they're great because they snake through tight places, but they're not quite small enough to fit through everywhere. For example, it won't quite go through this waterproof deck grommet. The bigger problem is they're only available for the small diameter RG58 cable. What we really needed was the larger diameter RG8X for the length of antenna run we had. Now, one solution is to just use an antenna that has an N connector and then put an N connector on the end of that RG8X. The problem with this is as that antenna is tightened, the coax has to rotate. And if it's down in a deck grommet, or in our case in the tuna tower leg, it's not free to do that. Now a better solution in that case is to replace this N connector with a BNC connector. In this case I'm just using an adapter. That has a bayonet mount, and then it's free to swivel, so as the antenna is tightened, the coax doesn't twist. Let me show you how to make these right on the boat. Probably the hardest part of this job is figuring out where to strip the coax. Now, to make that easier, I've taken a piece of coax and removed the shield so that the dielectric will slide inside that outer jacket. And also, this is short enough that that center conductor will slide within the insulation. So what we want to do is slide that insulation up until it just touches the pin, then put that into the fitting until the pin seats all the way home, and then slide that piece of outer insulation up until it stops right at the fitting like that. And there's your gauge. That's what you strip to. With a gauge made the same way for the BNC connector, I'm just going to slide the heat shrink tubing on, also the sleeve, and use like a razor knife, or in this case a little snap blade knife, to trim the outer insulation. And then I'll just very carefully split that outer insulation. We can judge how far back to cut the braid by holding the connector up to it. And honestly, I think scissors do the best job of cutting that. Make sure there aren't any stragglers like that. Cut that inner insulation very carefully. You don't want to lose any of the strands at all. And the important thing here is to make sure that absolutely none of that outer braid can possibly touch the center conductor. If that shorts out, the antenna won't work. And then check the depth. There we go, that looks good. And work back that outer braid a little bit, get it out of the way. Slide the body over the pin and over that center insulation. Work that outer braid over the end of the fitting. Slide the collar up and then crimp it. So there you've got it, just a few tools and a little bit of patience, and it's easy to put ends on the coax cable.